topic today which we are going to discuss is adjectives versus adverbs. So many times because adjectives and adverbs usually they seem to be like very close topic, but sometimes we get confused in this in identifying what is an adjective and what is an adverb, and it might also reflect in our writing style too, in putting which kind of adjective and what kind of adverb would fit in. So this topic would help us in identifying and applying those right way of using the adjective and adverb here. So adjectives are actually, they are used to modify the nouns. So the primary purpose is that they modify the noun, or they just give more detailed sense of noun. It explains what exactly the noun is. So the three most important questions which an adjective answers is what kind of, which, and how many. If you see here, I ate a meal, but meal is a noun here, but we could not figure out what is that meal is. It is not making any detailed sense. It is not giving any adequate knowledge or sense about the noun. But if you see the second sentence here, I ate an enormous meal, it is much better than the previous one. This enormous is actually modifying the meal noun. So here in this case, enormous, this adjective is actually modifying the noun. So that's how adjectives are actually used, and they modify the noun. If we, I'll give you more examples of this. The examples is here. If you see, the tall girl is riding her bike. Here, tall is an adjective. It is talking about the noun. If you simply tell the girl is riding her bike, the reader or the one who is listening to this, they might have another question: is which girl? Is it a tall girl, or is it a short girl? Or they still need a detailed sense about detailed information about the noun which we are using. So here, tall acts as an adjective which helps us to understand, to get the more detailed sense about the noun. If you go to the second sentence, our old van needs to be replaced soon. Here, old is an adjective and van is the noun. It is modifying the noun. It is giving a sense or more information about the noun. It is talking about what kind of van is it. Is it an old van or is it a new van? So as I said, adjectives usually answer these things: what kind of, which, and how many. So if you see the third sentence here, the tough professor gave us the final exam. So here we're talking about the professor, and tough is actually modifying. It is giving us more information about the professor. So it is telling us what kind of professor is it. Is it tough? Is it lenient? Or is it jovial? So it is giving the sense to the reader or the one who is listening to it about the professor's nature. And likewise, in the fourth sentence, 20 students have passed the midterm exams. So how many is that one which adjective also answers? So if you see 20 students, 20 is talking about the magnanimity, or the number, or the number which how many students are there. It is giving more detailed sense about the quantification of the students. So that's how adjectives are used. If you see some more extended rules in the adjectives topic is, most often if you see in the previous sentence, adjectives come before the nouns. If you see tall girl, old van, tough professor, so usually in a basic regular, you see them whenever you are expressing a thought, you simply express it directly in such a form. You will see always adjectives come before the noun, but it is not necessarily that they should come before the noun. They can also come after the noun, but usually they follow a verb. So if you see here, Brian seems sad. We are talking about which way the Brian is. We are not talking about the verb. We are still talking about the noun only. But the way we expressed it, it is putting that adjective is coming after the verb and the noun is coming before. So it depends upon how exactly we want to express a thought. If you see the second sentence also, the milk smells rotten. So here the noun has come before the adjective, and it usually follows verb. As you see, it is coming after the verb. And the same goes with the third sentence too. The speaker sounds hoarse. So we are talking about which way the speaker is talking or sounding. he's talking rough. That's what we have said here. So these are some basic or extended rules of adjectives and their application in any sentence. So these are about adjectives, and I'll talk in more detail about adjectives and adverbs, how they confuse us in sentences in the coming slides. So does anyone have any doubts up until now? Okay, so we'll move on to the next element of this session, which is adverbs. So far we have discussed about adjectives, and as we have said that adjectives actually modify the nouns, but when it comes to adverbs, they modify verbs, they modify adjectives too, and they modify other adverbs. So, and it is somewhat easy to identify the adverbs because many times adverbs are easily found by adding ly to the sentence, adding ly to the adjective. If you see here, beautifully, carelessly, likewise, if you see ly in the end, that's how we can easily identify adverbs. And would they come always in ly form? Not necessarily. They can come in the other ways too. And there are examples in the coming slides through which you can understand it even better. And if you see here, adverbs, their primary objective is to modify the verbs, adjectives, and adverbs, other adverbs. So just like adjectives, also adverbs answer a different set of questions. They usually answer how, when, where, why. So we'll see about how exactly these questions are answered through the adverbs in the next slide. So, okay, before we move there, we'll see the examples here. She sang beautifully. We are not talking about the noun here because we are not talking she is beautiful or she is we are not talking about the nature or the characteristics of a person. Here we are talking about the verb, the way how she sang, that is beautiful. We are talking about that thing. So it has come with an ly form. And the cellist played carelessly. We are not talking about the cellist is careless. We are talking about the way how he played. We are talking about an action. We are talking about the verb. So before in the adjective, it was modifying the noun, but here in case it is modifying the verb. It is giving more detailed sense about the way how it is performed, how it has been made, and when it was made, and where and why. These are the questions which an adverb answers, which an adverb gives us. So we'll see with even more detailed examples. So if you see here, that woman is extremely nice. If you see, nice is an adjective. What is it doing? It is actually modifying the woman, the verb, the noun woman. And here in this case, extremely is useful because extremely is modifying the adjective. So the nice, this adjective is modifying the noun, and this adverb is modifying the nice. So here nice is an adjective and extremely is an adverb. We can simply say the woman is nice, but because we want to put more emphasis on the adjective, and here we are using extremely, and extremely is acting as to modify the adjective. In the before slide, we have seen how it was modifying the verb. Here in this case, it is modifying the adjective. And if we move on to the second sentence, it is saying it was a terribly hot afternoon. So hot here is an adjective. It is actually modifying the afternoon. But if you see terribly, it is actually helping us to give more, even more details about the adjective. So we might have adjectives and adverbs in a single sentence. We might have two adverbs also in a single sentence, and they, as we discussed, their primary job is to modify verb, adverb, and adjective. We'll see it even more detail in the detailed form in the coming slides. So if you see here, adverbs usually answer the question how, when, where, and why. And how exactly are they answering? We'll see with this following examples. The first example is she arrived late. So we are not necessarily talking about that person's regular she's late or she is something. We are talking about the arrival, whether she has come earlier or she has come late, or when did she come. It is basically giving us the answer to the question when. The question is when did she arrive? She arrived late. So we are talking about an arrival, which is an action here. Verb. It is so late here is an adverb here. And if you see in the second sentence, they all went there for the party. They all went there for the party. But the question is, where did they go? If you can simply say they all went to the party, but they all went there for the party. So your there is actually, see, what is it doing? It is actually telling about where they went. It is talking about an adverb. It is talking about the verb and is modifying the verb. It is telling us more detailed sense of where did they all go. So here, where becomes the adverb here. So note the point here. Both of them does not have ly form. So not necessarily that adverbs are going to be in the ly form. They can come in the other different ways too, just like how it has come here. In this case, let is an adverb. Here, there is an adverb because it is modifying the verbs. And if you see the third sentence, the swim team practices every morning to develop good habits. So the swim team is doing something, practicing every morning, but why are they practicing it? What is it that they're going to do? To develop good habits. So if you see, unlike the before two examples where there is the adverbs are very straight, here in this case, it is an adverbial infinitive phrase. So what it means is, the phrase is when we have more than one word, then it becomes a phrase. So here it is not, it is acting as an adverbial infinitive phrase, which is not specifically talking about the noun. It is talking about their practice, why are they doing the practice. As we have seen, adverbs usually answer how, when, where, and why. Here it is answering the question why. So whenever you have a sentence, the best way to identify them, adverb or the adjective, is that you can simply ask the questions how, when, where, why. If you get these answers for these questions in any particular phrase or any particular word in that sentence, that is giving us a sense that it is an adverb. So that's how we identify the adjectives and adverb. And we'll see some extended rules of the adverbs. As we have discussed, adverbs cannot modify nouns. Only an adjective modifies the noun. Adverb will not modify the noun. If you see here, this example, he's quietly man. What exactly is it telling? He's quietly man. Quietly, here the man is a subject, and he's a quietly man. We don't say, it is not modifying it. It necessarily should not modify the noun. Because if we want to modify the noun, then we have to have the adjective, not the adverb. We can say he's a quiet man. That makes a sense, but he's a quietly man does not make a sense. So we does not need any adverb here. So whenever we write any sentence or anything, we can usually see the subject and we can see the noun. Are we going to modify the noun or are we going to modify the verb? Here in this case, we are going to modify the noun. So we don't require an adverb. We just need an adjective. So this sentence does not make sense. The correct way of putting this sentence is here. If you see, he is a quiet man. So this is what this is how the exact sentence should be, because it is answering the question, what kind of man is a quiet man, or is he a very aggressive man or something. So it is basically answering the question, what kind of man this person is. So the correct sentence is, he is a quiet man, not the quietly. So you have to remove the ly. You have to remove it from adverbial form to adjective form. And we'll see the second example here. The second example is, this sentence is, I have a happily dog. If you see, dog is the noun here, and I'm going to talk about the dog, and I'm going to give the more detailed sense of the noun, the dog. And I should not use happily. Ly does not make sense here, because if you want to use the ly, then there has to be a verb in this sentence. It has to be put into different form, because we want to highlight here the dog, the noun. We want to give more detailed sense about the noun. You have to use adverb. You have to say, I have a happy dog. That gives a sentence, that gives a meaning. But in this case, it is not the actual English, the way how we should put. So because it is, the question is, here we are asking, what kind of dog is it? So whenever we have the question, what kind of, then we have to have the adjective, not the adverb here. So these are the two most important rules, and there are further examples in the next slide. We'll see the differences between the adjective and the adverb here. So look at this sentence. It is saying, Sharon's cough sounds bad. Sharon's cough sounds bad. Here we are talking actually about the health condition of the person. The cough. Here cough is acting as the noun. If you see Sharon's cough sounds bad, what exactly I mean? I'm not necessarily talking about the music or the sound of that cough. I'm basically saying the health condition of the person. So here bad is an adjective that is modifying the noun cough. We should not say, suppose if you write Sharon's cough sounds badly, it is not making sense because we are talking about noun and we are putting here an adverb. So what this basically gives a meaning is we are talking about the music of the person. Hey, his cough sound is, the music is not at all good, cough in a different way. It gives a very bad, different kind of meaning here. So
you don't want any cough these days, isn't it?
Yeah, especially in the COVID times. Yeah. So Sharon's cough sounds bad not necessarily means we are talking about the sound, we are talking about the health condition. So that is why we have to use the adjective. Just simply bad is enough. Badly will make it as an adverb, and which makes the sentence give a wrong or a different meaning, which we don't use in the regular or a general practice. So that's how the adjective or the adverb helps in communicating any particular thing. And there is another example to it similar to this one. We'll see that one too. So if you see here, she seems unhappy today. Here we are talking about this person, how she is, we are talking about the condition of that person on that particular situation. Here unhappy is an adjective because it is giving more sense of the noun, how she is, how that person is on that particular day. Here she is a pronoun. So unhappy is modifying this person. We are talking about the person. We are not necessarily talking about the verb, how she is seeming, how this. We are not talking about that action. We are talking about the person. If you write it as she seems unhappily today, what you are necessarily saying is the way how she is looking, the way how the verb seeming, that is making unhappy. So that is not the sense which we are going to communicate. What we are going to communicate is we are talking about the condition of that person, not the action of that person. Because we are talking about the condition of the person, it has to be simply unhappy, an adjective. If you put unhappily, if you just add ly and make it an adverb, we're talking about the verb. So the reader who is reading, they think it in a different way and they think, okay, the action which she is performing, that is seeming to be unhappy. So that gives a wrong sense of the meaning. In continuation to that example, we'll see another interesting example here. You see here, the dog smells carefully. Here carefully is an adverb. It is talking about the modifying, it is modifying the dog smells carefully. So what this sentence, when I read, what am I going to perceive when I read this sentence? Your dog smells carefully. Dog is on, but maybe the dog is on a lawn, or maybe the dog is on a floor, or it is on a surface, and the very basic nature of the dog is it tries to sniff, or it tries to smell, to identify things or to catch things in this way. So what we are saying is the dog is being very careful at smelling and identifying things. So it gives a basic sense, or it gives a correct meaning to the particular sentence. In case if you say your dog smells carefully, what you're saying is that you're talking about the order, you're talking about the way how it is smelling. Smelling careful does not make any sense here. Here you should basically talk about the action of the dog. You want to highlight about the action, the way how that dog is smelling. That is what you're going to highlight. So an adjective would not make sense here. It has to be an adverb here. It has to be carefully. When you use carefully, you're talking about the action, the dog which it is performing. If you use careful, the adjective is directly turning towards the dog, the smell, and the sentence which you are going to, the one thing which you are going to communicate, it completely gives a very different meaning. Here in this case is giving the dog's order is a bit carefulness, and dog's order, how can a dog's order can be careful? So it is a wrong way of putting the adjective here. So that's how we use the adjective and the adverb. So we'll see one more example here. So if you see, the dog smells clean. Here clean describes the dog itself. You're talking about the dog smells clean, and basically the thing which you're answering is what kind of smell is it. is it clean or is it bad, or is it something which you are going to talk. So here an adjective is actually talking about the dog only, the noun. Basically it is talking about the noun and it's making a sentence here. And if you see the dog smells carefully here in this way, you're basically talking about a verb. In this case, you're talking about the noun, so an adjective would fit there. In this case, you're talking about an adverb because you're highlighting the action of the person. So as we have discussed, adverbs modify verbs, adjectives and adverbs, but adjective only modifies noun. Their primary job is to just modify the noun. In case of adverb, it modifies verbs, adjectives and other adverbs which are present in the same sentence. I think these are the examples which have come up for this topic for today. Okay. Does anyone have any doubts up until now?
Sorry, just one question. I think in one of the slides you were talking about that adverbial infinity phrase, right? Slide 53 was it? Yeah, I think.
Yeah, this one.
Okay, so essentially the to develop good habits is the infinitive phrase. Okay, got it. Okay,
Yeah.
Typically, the develop is the verb, just for everyone. Develop is the verb, and to plus verb becomes an infinitive, just as per the rules of the English language. And
Right.
verb plus ing is called as a gerund.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So the best way of remembering these things, or the best way of identifying this adjective or adverb, or whenever we communicate, being conscious in communicating this can become even more easy with this simple technique. When we want to identify adverb, or when we want to use adverb, note down these 4 questions. So these are the primary questions which an adverb answer. How that thing is done, when it is made, where it is made, why it is made. So these 4 things, if you can remember, whenever you want answers for these questions, if you get answers for these 4 things in the sentence, that is an adverb. In case of adjective, as I've said, it answers these 3 questions: what, kind of, which and how many. If you remember these question things, it would become easy, and it would become easy to communicate to other person, especially when it is in a written form, because we don't necessarily be present there. Written form, sometimes it depends upon the person's way of perceiving things. So these questions would make it easy for us to just communicate it. So that's it for today. I'll just stop sharing my screen.
I think this point has struck me. Even in situations where we have to use an adverb, right? So for example, you take the sentence, I ate fast. Right? Now that fast modifies the verb ate. Right? How did I eat? So there, though it modifies the verb, though it is an adverb, we don't use fastly, because that fastly word doesn't exist.
Right.
I think this is an exception where the word does not take an ly form, so we cannot use a blanket rule as to add ly whenever we use an adjective.
Right. Yeah.